So this is a response from the perspective of Rauschenbusch to the Q&A of Mike and Pat Abendroths on the social gospel.
And we noticed a couple of things when we were watching the video that we feel that Rauschenbusch would want to respond to. The first point made, we'll go in chronological order of the video, was when they talked about there not being any social justice in Romans. And they specifically mentioned Romans 12 about being transformed as a Christian. And we wanted to respond in a Rauschenbusch type way that said, specifically from his quote that talks about a mystic experience which takes away from your fellow man and making your daily labor less noble is a dangerous religion. He goes on to say a religious experience is not Christian unless it brings you closer to your fellow man.
And so, Rauschenbusch has this very strong idea about a solidaristic community of the church, and we noticed that the two of you also feel that there is a role for the church, and that role of the church is to preach the gospel and to love one's neighbor. But you deny the fact that loving one's neighbor extends so far as to physical help of your neighbor, unless it also happens to be your worldly role. And Rauschenbusch might say to that that the church is called to preach the gospel, yes. And so if you're preaching the gospel and the only good that you're transferring is the salvation of Jesus Christ, Rauschenbusch might say, well, salvation is the recognition of the fact that God gave you the faculties to go out and to make change in the world. And so by preaching salvation, in that, your good deeds should be a more pragmatic application of your talents and your faculties to helping people that are in lower conditions than you.
And I think a great example is when the point is brought up about talking about feeling guilty about not loving your neighbor individually. And so, it's a point made in the video that people try and harness the power of the church to make up for the things that they're not doing in their private life. But why is that necessarily wrong to do for the church? I think Rauschenbusch would respond, and he says in his writing, the way of holiness through human fellowship and service is lowlier, but its results are essentially more Christian. So it seems like doing work, Rauschenbusch would say, in a community is not only more effective, but it's holistically more Christian. And if the point of the church is to spread Christianity, then it certainly seems that doing good as a community, even as things that you may interpret as being better done as an individual, are more Christian and more effective.
And at some point, you have to recognize that there is no practical application. Once you have reached the most intimate relationship that you find with Jesus or with God, where does that become practical or pragmatic past your relationship individually? Why even go to church? Why even commune with others if your relationship individually is so great? And if you're going to church, well then why not spread the gospel? And if the gospel is salvation, and salvation is the recognition of the fact that God gave you the faculties to help other people, then why don't we do that? And why is it so wrong to want to help people?
Yes. Dialogue is good. Thank you.